Hello there friends, welcome back to the channel. It's Evelyn here as usual with, yes, a sleepy Luna. I hope that I find you all well, and as always a huge thank you to each and every single one of you for your continued love and support for this, my very own little creative corner of the internet. Now friends, if you're watching this and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. I'm so close to 1,000 subscribers and it only takes you 2 seconds, so please be sure to do that. Now, a few weeks ago, my friends, I got into a little bit of knitting here on the Evelyn Adore channel, showing you all of my me-made knits. Since then, I have remembered how much I love those jumpers and I've been wearing them quite a lot. But there's one issue. I haven't got a lighter weight coat to wear over the top of them because a heavier weight coat like the princess coat I made here on the channel previously, and also the gorgeous cape that I drafted right here on the channel just a few weeks ago. Although I've made both of those gorgeous creations, my friends, they're a little bit too thick to wear on top of those knitted jumpers because as part of my disability, I find it difficult to regulate my temperature. So I can't have too many thick layers because I get too hot and it makes me incredibly sick and nauseous. So this week I thought I definitely want to keep wearing those jumpers, so I need a lighter weight jacket. With that in mind, my friends, I'm going to use some lighter weight fabrics to create a version of this. Yes, it's another pattern from Gertie's World on Patreon. Absolutely love her, cannot get enough of my girl Gertie. So I'm going to create a lighter weight version of this swing coat and I'm going to do the shorter version. But without further ado, my friends, let's stop the chatter and let's get to some sewing. And sleeping, if you're Luna. So first things first, get that PDF pattern printed. PDF patterns are definitely a relatively new discovery for me. As somebody who was taught to sew in my early childhood years by my mum, I was introduced to sewing patterns in the form of the McCall's and Simplicity pattern books and tissue paper patterns. But I love the ability to print patterns at home today, and having to cut them out and stick them together also reminds me to take things at a slower pace, because I can tend to go all out and rush myself, which doesn't do me any favours or my sewing. So pattern done, let's talk fabric. For my outer fashion fabric, I've chosen this lighter weight scuba in a stunning shade of burgundy. Not only does this mean that my jacket will be lighter and yet still warmish, it will also be water resistant. Very important here in Scotland. And for the lining, I've got this navy fleece-backed scuba, which I'm going to use fleece side out for a wonderfully soft inside of my jacket. And with all those pieces cut out, my friends, it's time to get sewing. A strategy that I employ, especially on larger projects, I tend to batch construct more complex garments, beginning on this swing coat by constructing the pockets and sewing the sleeve seam and darts on the lining layers. Batch sewing like this not only helps me keep a better track of my pattern pieces, but also helps me in terms of my mind. Pinning all the lining pieces and then sewing them allows me to see progress quite quickly, which is both satisfying and keeps my brain happy in longer, monotonous or more difficult tasks. One important tip that I would give you though, my friends, if you'd like to try this idea of batch sewing yourself, be sure to read the instructions for your chosen garment thoroughly before you begin to ensure that you don't miss any steps or get them in the wrong order. I speak from experience, my friends. Those darts and pockets sewn, it was time to join the back lining pieces at the centre back seam, and I could already see the shape of the coat come together. On to that burgundy outer fabric to repeat the same processes, pinning and then sewing the darts on the bodice pieces, then the sleeve seams, and this time also the cuffs. And joining the front and back facing pieces. Then that centre back seam. Followed by the shoulder and side seams, which results in a rather pleasing looking garment already. Day number 2, my friends, and those cuffs are attached to the sleeves all around the effective wrist edge to create a huge, extremely long sleeve. And while I was at the sewing machine doing that, my friends, it was the perfect time to stitch some easing stitches on those sleeve caps. No matter what bodice I'm making, I never skip this step because it makes inserting those sleeves so much easier and smoother. Which incidentally was the next step, leading to this. It's really beginning to look like a jacket now. The facing then gets sewn to the jacket front all around the edge. Then I went back to that lining. Firstly, the side and shoulder seams, then attaching the lining sleeves, before the lining and outer jacket are joined all around that front edge. Tailoring can often be quite tricky, but my friends, if you're wanting to take a wee foray into it, I highly recommend this swing coat pattern. The garment comes together wonderfully and satisfyingly quickly, and as always, Gertie's instructions and the accompanying video make it an easy and enjoyable process. Those patch pockets are then pinned in place, ready for top stitching. The sleeve lining and sleeve outer fabric layers are then joined at the lower edge. And this is done really cleverly by pulling both sleeves through the open hem of the jacket before placing them right sides together and stitching together to create a perfect finished edge inside the sleeve, which is then pulled right side out again and the cuffs turned up. Aren't they beautiful? All that's left is to hand stitch that hem before adding a fastening to the front. Reveal time! So my friends, another week and another sewing project completed. I definitely feel like I've got my sojo back. It was incredibly windy when taking these captures, but I absolutely love this lightweight version of the swing coat and definitely want to create one with heavier fabric in the future. I wholeheartedly recommend this pattern to anyone out there wanting to create their very own vintage style coat. I am particularly proud of the top stitching detail, especially in those patch pockets where I used a navy bobbin thread for the inside of the pocket and a burgundy thread for the outside. It's definitely the little things, my friends. And despite the wind, this coat still stood up to the weather and my Luna got her beach walk. Win-win. Until next week, my friends, take care. Bye.